Alright, hello everyone, this is Weeb Shorts here, and I am pressed for time, so I will be doing this video in one take and one take only. I am going to be going through, very quickly, my deck list that I took to BCS Duluth, Georgia, and going through the matchups that I played during that. So first off, getting into the deck list, I should have it up on screen right here. Going from bottom to top, so zeros to threes. 8 standby, I played 8 standby Quince. Newest deck, this is the first event that it was legal at. Really wanted to play it. Really like the series and think it's pretty good. Has good matchups. Also has some very bad matchups, but just dodge those. So yeah, 8 standbys is necessary. 2 bracelet event here at the bottom right. It is very good to at least present this card to your opponent, so they have to play knowing it's there. I think I resolved this card 3 times within the entire event, and one time at least I know it didn't even matter that I resolved it. But continuing on, 2 Itsuki, Jiri, Fukazria, whatever you want to call it. It's really good for killing large level zeros, and it provides extra deck speed without having to pay stock like the Ichika or a Brainstorm does. So both of those things are very good. So I opted to play 2 of those rather than having 4 runners, which is also a good card to have in order to beat over large level zeros, and also provides a plus sometimes, whereas the Itsuki does not. 2 Nino Brainstorm. This is your selective plussing Brainstorm. You're still playing a total of 4 Brainstorm in here with the Nino and Ichika. Ichika only grabs Ichikas, but provides more utility with the check 4 effect. Nino can actually be selective in the late game, and the rolling 500 power that it has can help you scale over different standby boards depending on what your setup is like. The Shuffleback Nino, this card is broken. There are a million different things you can do with this card to make it good. So moving on, Ichika, Climax Swap. It is effectively a free Climax Swap if you have an extra card in your hand, which is great. And there was 2 times during the tournament where I just played it out to gain stock and Brainstorm to get me out of a bad deck. So yeah, this card is great. It being an Ichika name means both of your Brainstorms can grab it. Unfortunately, it means that you can't discard it to the Ironwood clone Nino that we will get to in a moment, but still provides free stock if you have extras hand. Climax swaps for if you have the wrong Climax. Moving on, the Ichika Brainstorm. Mill 5 Brainstorm to tap 2. Tapping 2 is not a real cost, especially whenever you have the Nino that shuffles back, as you can front row that card, play the level 2 Nino's Climax, pop the shuffle back to your hand, and standby into that slot. So sometimes it even feels like a tap 1 Brainstorm for 5. Only grabbing Ichika names is not great, but a lot of our good cards are Ichikas, such as the level 3 Changer, the early play, as well as being able to grab a Ricky if you really need to. But the pay 1 Sack Self check 4 provides extra deck speed that you need, as well as being a very good standby target for if you have no good standby targets, because then it just turns your standbys into pay 1 pluses, which sometimes ends up meaning you pay the standby out itself, which is pretty fun. Moving on, the Nino, it's slightly worse than the Ironwood and Ruby, but it's in a better set than Ruby, so it makes up for that. Can salvage anything if you hit the top check by discarding anything, and can draw a card by discarding a Nino. So this card is actually absurd. Just being able to discard 2 cards for absolute free is it's so good. One of your best turn 1 plays is just play this, ditch 2 1/1s, draw a card, play a standby, and then play one of those 1/1s out, and then try to hit a standby to standby the other one out. It's So incredibly good. Moving on, Eat Ski with the glasses. It has pay 2 tap salvage, which sometimes comes up. I think I used it once or twice in the event, and it was fine. But mostly this is here because it has tap self, give a quint, 500 extra power, and a clock punt effect. So whenever its battle opponent becomes reversed, you heal them and then kick the thing that you reversed to clock. This card is really good against anything looking to stick on death effects, most specifically Kanata Marine. And especially against the Kanata Marine matchup, this card can be detrimental because it means the amount of actual clock pluses that that deck is getting is reduced by however many times you resolve this card. So I think having 1 is necessary. I wanted to put 2 in here, but I couldn't actually find the space for 2. Moving on from that, we have 4 Ichika Rickies, and the Surveil on play is largely irrelevant. I'm going to be honest, I forgot that it even had that effect a couple times. But really, it's just a pay 1 clock plus, helps you get to level 1 first if you need to do that, helps you get to level 2 first if you need that. Usually you don't need that, but it exists. Searches for either your 1/1s if you feel that it is necessary to hard play one of those, but can also search for any of your level 0s for fancy shenanigans. A couple times I rickied for like a blue 1/1 and then just played a Ironwood Nino and used that to discard the 1/1 that I had just searched. Yeah, just general Ricky things. Good card. Moving on to the level 1s, a 4-2 split of the blue and red 1/1s respectively. I expected to see a lot more of Danmachi and Tokyo Revengers, so I was really wanting to bank on the blue 1/1s living against cost zeros. Ended up that nobody played Dual Lane or Tokyo Revengers at the event, which was very surprising to me. Or if they did, I didn't. Nobody seemed to see them. But against any 1k1 decks, you can just sit on these for almost forever, and it's great. And then 1175 Red Nino, just because you can sometimes wall out certain decks, especially lower tier decks have issues scaling this one, but it's mostly just important to have 6 1/1s to ensure that you always have one to stand by out at level 0. Moving on from that, I have 3 of the 2-2 Nino Climax combo. I'm playing 3 because I was pretty sure I could get away with playing 3 instead of 4. So I cut the 4th for some tech level 3 up here. I'm not sure whether or not I was correct in assuming I could get away with 3 or not, but I did fine, so I guess it's okay. I did have to struggle to find one in waiting room a couple times. I think from here on I'll be playing 4, just because it's easier to think about and more consistent to have it in the waiting room when you need it, but I didn't have too much of an issue with 3. So moving on, next we have the 3-2 Miku from the Set 1 trial deck. Has enter the battlefield and search for a quint, and then it Icy Tails for 4. Very good combination of effects with the Ichika Changer. You can stand by out the Ichika Changer, and then use it to change into the Miku. The Miku comes into play from your hand, which means you get to search out a card. So it's really good value to do that. And then sometimes the Icy Tail just blows out your opponent, which is always nice. Then we have 2 of the Nino Globals. I am almost certainly cutting this down to 1. I did not put a single one of these on the field all tournament. I recognize that it is necessary in matchups where they try to put up a bigger board than you, but this one is you can usually find this if you need it. So I don't feel like I should be playing 2. Nino's Standby combo gives this deck the nickname of 12 Standby. Very, very cool card. A lot of shenanigans you can do with this, especially with the Shuffleback Nino at level 0. And it's very good and efficient numbers to kill your opponent if you need to do that. Ichika Changer. Pay 2 tap to deal 1 is way more relevant than you would ever think. There's a lot of times where I use that to make my damage numbers at level 3 much more in my favor, rather than being more likely to have my opponent live on 1. And then it can just, if you stand by it out, it turns any of your level 3s into early plays, whether you have the condition for the actual early play or not, and whether they are actual early plays or not. So I already explained with the Miku, but also with the Ichika early play, you can use the Ichika Changer to change into the early play, discard the Changer, and then stand by out the Changer again to do it again. So that's always fun. Ichika level 3 assist. Heals on play never came up, never played it from hand, but it exists if you need it. 2000 assist is fine, and then the on standby, on pull from waiting room, you give something a soul. It's set up for a bunch of really nasty lethal turns during the tournament, so that's cool. And then 2 of the early play Ichikas. It's just a really efficient early play healer. Condition is not too hard to meet, and then it sits as a base 11 with a full field, which gets even bigger if you get the global out, even bigger than that if you have the assist out. So yeah, that's the quick deck profile here. Now I'm gonna quickly run down what my matchups were like at the event itself. So, round 1, I played against Danmachi Door Pants, just the typical board breaker deck that you normally see. I feel like this deck is very favored against Danmachi, specifically because of the 1/1 blue Nino, as you sit on it forever, so you just don't have to clock, and then their finisher is not as good as yours. And then if they ever try to do anything fancy at level 2, you either don't care, or the Nino level 2 climax combo can kill it. So that was a rather easy win for me. Off to a good start. Round 2, I go up against Dao Choice Standby, which is not something I was intending to play against, but it happened. So how this game went down, I did normal stuff at level 0, and then my opponent double combos with the, I think your name's Kotori, the thing that checks 2 twice, whiffed both of them, and then just didn't have a hand for the rest of the game. So that was an unfortunate game for them, but a win for me. Round 3, I played against 8 Choice Slime, which is slowly turning out to be my nemesis. It just seems to kill me more than it really should. I lost this game explicitly because my opponent canceled more than me. We both had very good games as far as our game plans go, but yeah, they just sat at level 1 for 3-4 turns, something like that, and yeah, that happens sometimes. So there's my first loss of the Swiss rounds. Going into round 4. Round 4 was against Hololive Kanata Marine, which is a deck I am very familiar with, as I have now put up results with that deck. And also I just play against a lot of people that play with that deck normally. In this game, it was one of the most one-sided games I've seen in a while. I, on multiple occasions, used the Itsuki level 0 to give something the clock punt effect, use the Nino to play over the Itsuki, and then use the Nino to get back the Itsuki, and then play the Itsuki over the Nino in order to give something else clock punt. So I was punting 2 things a turn, and I believe I clocked 5 of my opponent's characters over the course of the entire game. It was so detrimental to my opponent that whenever they hit level 2, their turn was clock, Brainstorm, with the Brainstorm, play the 2-1, and then the 2-1 changes, he changed the 2-1 into the Kanata with no other cards on field. So he attacked once that entire game. I was unable to kill that Kanata due to me just not having a good hand, but the fact that I punted so many cards to their clock meant that their hand just was not prepared for the game, and I swiftly won that. Moving on to round 5, I was against Dan Machi, almost the exact same list. This game, I don't honestly remember a whole lot of, but I do remember that I stayed at level 1 for an obscenely long time and was able to just sit on the blue Ninos for as long as I could. Round 6, another game, or another set, I should say, that I was not really prepared for. I was against Adventure Time Standby Choice, which is a deck I largely don't like, just because the Standby level 1 and the Choice level 3 don't really play well together. But he was playing like 2 Demon Blood Swords and stuff to break standby boards, and he broke my standby boards, and that ended up in me very narrowly losing. It was close but decisive. The game was close, but I very clearly lost the game, as once I hit level 3, he Blood Swords to open up 2 of my lanes, and then goes double Fin combo in order to just basically guarantee lethal. I was hoping against hope that I would survive that turn, but ended up not happening. So that was my second loss of Swiss. I knew the slime player that I lost to was doing very well, so I decided to not drop on the account that anywhere from 2 to 3 X2s were going to get into Top Cut. So I decided to play out my last round since there was only 1 round to go. And then round 7, I was against an 8 standby Quince player. Their build was significantly different from mine, as well as the typical 8 standby list you see. His was a lot more Nino focused and a lot more board focused, especially at 1. But unfortunately, damage went way more in my favor than theirs, and I was able to find enough 2/2 Ninos to break their standby board that I feel like their deck probably wasn't geared for the mirror match, whereas mine does fine into the mirror match. So I ended up winning that one. And with that, I made top 8 on 7th place, as both the Adventure Time player that I lost to, as well as the Slime player that I lost to, were still X1, I believe. Maybe the Adventure Time player was X2. Either way, my tiebreakers were just barely good enough in order for me to get into top 8. So going into top 8, I am ecstatic, because this is now the 3rd event in a row that I have top 8'd at, and just that is already very exciting to me. But I still have more games to play. So I sit down for my top 8 match. It is a run back against the Slime player that I lost to in round 3. In this game, things swing much, much more in my favor. I'm able to sit on the 1/1 Ninos for quite a while against their level 1 combos, and I even have the red Nino to actually wall their level 1 combo, as I found out in my round 3 game. I learned that they don't have the best ways to scale over 7/5, so I was able to wall out with those. And then some unfortunate things happen at level 0, so they really struggled to sculpt their hand for the rest of the game because of that. But for that, I ended up winning that game. It felt really good, because now I'm on to top 4. So in top 4, I play against another Quint standby mirror. And in this one, it was a very back and forth game. But dust settling, I came out on top just by being able to cross the line for lethal. I believe that was actually one of the games where I resolved a bracelet in order to actually ensure that I didn't die. Which, with this means I actually get to the finals. This is my first time ever being in the finals of any kind of major event. I'm so excited to do this. I've gotten third place at several events, never gotten second or better. So I go into finals, and finals is against Connor Pelham himself. He is on Kanata Marine, and this leads to the finals just being a pretty casual match. So the stress is lifted off of me whenever I know that I'm playing a friend and not just some random stranger who's also trying to cutthroat win the game. That said, still played as I would. I'm sure he still played as he would. But the Itsuki level 0 clock punted, I believe, 1 Aki and 1 Miko, which set him back a little bit. But it wouldn't have been too bad, as he had made sure to hold on to his helmets just in case something like this happened. All he needed to have happen was just get some extra hand with like an Aqua. So since I was presenting the Itsuki in the back row, he knew that he couldn't just let an Aqua sit on the field because I would just end up clock punting it. So he has to offensively crash the Aqua into something and try to get hand that way. That way he can actually sculpt for his level 2 turn. And he resolves 2 Aquas in this and adds 1 card. His first Aqua revealed 2 stock souls, and then his second Aqua revealed, I believe, like another Aqua and a stock soul, which meant he just never had the hand to sculpt for a good level 2 turn, and that just snowballed into my favor. I was able to get over the hill and win the game, giving me my first ever BCS or any major event victory. And that felt great. So now with that, as you have probably been seeing at the bottom of the screen here, that is a nice picture of me with my trophy for winning the game, as well as the promo that I won for having done so as well. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I just want to rush and get this video out to kind of just rant about my accomplishment. I am very happy that I was able to do this. I'm so ecstatic that I get to go to Worlds this year. The other year that I got an invite to Worlds, I was unfortunately unable to make it. This year, I will definitely be making it, or I guess next year. Yeah, I'll be definitely making it, and I will definitely be gunning for that #1 spot. I got nothing else. Bye!